Alright, you know what? Before I get started, I want to say this right now. Right now. My patience is very, very thin. That's right. So, after what I've read this morning, you're damn right I was going to talk about this first, and I want to say this right now before I start with, Eagles, Cowboys, and all this other sports stuff. Everything that's going on in Philly for the previous year now, or should I say previous 2 years, have led up to this point. This is the boiling point for me. Now, I've said this time and time again, Philadelphia can be pretty stupid. Philadelphia can be pretty ignorant at times when it comes to sports because they're not, catering to their target demographic, their target audience. But for this to go down, for those, I'm sure you already seen the title, the link will be in the info bar for more information. A bunch of cyclists, want to get together with an architect and go to the Park and Recreations Commission and decide they want to build an indoor bike track on FDR. No. I say this emphatically, no. Why? Because you're not taking care of the things that you already have here. For those who have been watching my videos for at least the previous 2 years, you know I have been doing so much legwork trying to get renovations for basketball courts, and like I said, that was just the start for basketball courts. Well, I'm not even going to touch on football fields, baseball fields, and all that other stuff, hockey rinks and all that other stuff. I've talked about this in the past, have I not? I've shown you on video the things that have happened to these basketball courts and how they're not going to get fixed because you talk to the mayor, we don't have any money. He sends me to the chief youth advisor, we don't have any money. You send me to the Parks and Recreation, commission, and when I talk to them, what do? This is what they did. Again, we don't have any money. That's what they keep saying to us, right? But in the previous year, have we not seen Philadelphia say they want to be more like New York? So now we're seeing, was it on 7th and was it Market? We're seeing all these little ads, these little flashy ads now that we're seeing, just like you would see in Times Square. They're trying to do that now. I believe there's a couple articles written about that too. Have we not been talking about, what's going on in Dilworth Plaza? How they're trying, they put the ice rink and it's in now in front of City Hall because they wanted to make it look like Rockefeller Center. All these flashy things that we are seeing here and no substance. And I keep telling you, you need to take care of what you already have before you decide to build something new. This is why a lot of us were against it. But it seems like nobody cares about that. So now you got a bunch of rich jackasses who are out of touch with the rest of the inner city, because that's what this is. This is the inner city. I would love for one of these cyclists to tell me the last time a kid said, I'm going to cycle to stay off the streets. I want to know that. I can see the ad now. I'm cycling to stay off the streets, even though I'm riding on the streets. I can see that now. You've got to be kidding me. So let me get it straight. You got a bunch of rich idiots who have no type of connection with the rest of what's going on in this city. Because for those who know, like I said, you saw the basketball courts. You saw how we can't get those back. They're starting to remove half the court now and saying, you're not going to get that. So I want to know, for people to say, we can just get money together. No, the community just can't get money together and replace an entire side of a park. You can't do that. They won't let you do that. That's the thing. Same thing with the football fields. Not too long ago, we see a lot of Pop Warner leagues. There's been some reports on it too, I believe, on TV. All right, a lot of Pop Warner leagues. What happened? They don't have the equipment for the kids. And the equipment they do have is run down. And you got places like Tabor who need, all types of renovations. This is ridiculous. For those who don't know, because you have to understand, Philadelphia, I've said before, is a big basketball city, but it's also a big football city. It's also a big baseball city. And you saw that with Taney not too long ago. It's also starting to get up there, with soccer, and it's a big hockey city. We saw Ed Snyder not too long ago start to renovate those things, hockey rinks in West Philadelphia and a lot of places himself. But here's the thing. When you're talking about kids, like I said, I want one of these cyclists to tell me one of these kids are cycling to stay off the streets. It's amazing. I want to talk about just how big basketball is here and how it's a necessity. All right? To keep these kids off the streets. That's the project. That's the plan. Because for those who don't know, Monet Davis not too long ago, Sports Illustrated named her Kid of the Year when it means athletes, right? But if anybody's even read Monet Davis's interviews when it comes to them talking about her baseball, times they say, so what do you want to do? Do you want to play baseball when you grow up? You know what she says? No. I want to play basketball. And when she said that, all of a sudden, a lot of scouts came out of nowhere and they're looking at her now. Basketball is pivotal here. And you're going to tell me that we don't have the money to seriously help these people, these kids, in their renovations when it comes to basketball. You have to understand, I told you before, we don't have any indoor courts like that here. We don't. So when you want to propose to build a cycling track, an indoor cycling track, who's going to go there? A couple of cyclists? Do you expect the taxpayers to pay for the city to handle that? Is that what it is? We can't get a premier indoor basketball place here, but we're going to give you a cycling track. Even though the majority of people in Philadelphia play basketball. The kids have already said, and I've shown you before, the kids have already said, hey, by the time we get out of school, the places that are indoor courts are closed. Because they close at either 3 to 5. So what the kids are supposed to do then? Huh? I talked to a kid not too long ago who said his school got rid of their gym for their basketball team, so they have to travel halfway across the fucking city. That's right. Have to travel across the city to a recreational place to have practice. Because their school doesn't have a gym. Do you understand what's going on here? But it seems like, no, they don't care about that. It just sounds like it's a bunch of arrogant assholes. That's what it feels like now. Don't tell me that you're going to take this to the Parks and Recreation Commission when I've been there so many times. But you know what the bad part about this is? Or I should say the sad part about all this is. Sad part is it probably will get built. Because for some reason, instead of taking care of the people that are already in the city and their need, you're going to go and build something else and things just going to be flashy. You've got to be kidding me, man. There's no reason for this, especially when you have a number of places, institutions that need help. You can take that money and pour it into them, but you're not going to do that, right? Because it's not what you like. So tell me, cyclists, because I want to break this down. How many people have watched basketball games in full? You've watched them, right? Okay. Now, same people. How many of you have watched the full Tour de France? Just in one sitting. How many of you? Didn't think so. See, this is what I mean about this being a sports city. And this is what you do. And I know a lot of people will say, well, you need some type of diversity. We have the Big Five. All right? It's a Big Five at this point. It really is. Like I said, we're already starting to see, cycling, polo here outdoor, hockey rinks. So the street hockey rinks are now being used because they have sponsors because of like this. You can't get sponsors, it seems like these days. You've seen it when I talked to Kenny Smith in the interview. And how, Coors Light sponsored that. You know what I mean? But you have to also understand that those sponsors come few and far between. So when these people have all this money, seriously, how many people in the hood or in the inner city can afford a top-of-the-line cycling bike? I want to know. That's right. None of them can. See, you have to understand the necessity as opposed to, it's wants versus needs at this point. And as we know, it is needless. You do not need an indoor bike track. You don't. We need indoor basketball, can't get that. We don't have anywhere for kids to play indoor football here. I see a lot of them in the suburbs. A lot of them. But, especially like in Doylestown and things of that nature. Don't get that here. They have indoor soccer out in the suburbs. We don't have that here. Unless especially, I'll put it like this. Down in Port Richmond, over at Cohawks, what they do from time to time, because they're paying to play soccer indoors, what they do is they make the basketball players leave for a set amount of time, they wax the floor, and have the kids come in and play indoor soccer. For a specific block of hours. That's what they do. But also understand, Cohawks isn't always open for basketball or soccer. See, this is what I'm talking about. We don't have one consistent facility that can say, hey, this is indoor football, or hey, this is indoor basketball, or whatever. We don't have that type of facility. Especially when schools are shutting down these sports programs. But you want an indoor cycling track. Are you serious? What would bring more people? You know what? Whatever. See, this is the things that piss me off, man. I want to move on. Because I know, like I said, they keep saying, even in the info bar, in the article, they say, well, the public, they can voice their opinion. You're damn right. I'm going to put it like this. If I'm around when that goes down, you're damn right I'm going to go and say something. That is ridiculous. There's no reason for it. Absolutely ridiculous. You saw what happened over at the skate park with the indoor skate park at Franklin Mills. What they do? They took that down too, didn't they? And they made a military facility. The military recruitment center, and tried to bring in people with Call of Duty, didn't they? And what happened then? They got caught, they got shut down, and now the indoor skate park is back. Park is back. But it took a number of years. This is what I mean, man. See? Ridiculous. I tell you, the arrogance of people. I cannot believe this. Was it Project 250? I'll put it like this. Say no to Project 250. Like I said, if they can sit here and tell me they can find one kid who cycles to stay off the streets, then I'll hit them with a barrage of more questions and more situations. Ridiculous. I want to move on to football. Football, Eagles versus Cowboys. Let's start right now. I told you that the Cowboys would not be able to handle the Eagles. What did I say? They wouldn't be able to keep up with the play style speed. And what happened? We saw Joe Buck and Troy Aikman say off the first drive, the Cowboys look winded. They can't keep up. And they couldn't. They couldn't. All game we dominated the Cowboys. I was a little worried about the running game until, we started in the second half, still really started shutting down DeMarco Murray, and they abandoned the run game. And what did I tell you? If the Cowboys abandon the run game and put this on Tony Romo's shoulders, he will fold. And that's what he did. Interception after interception. December came early. Just saying. Cowboys fans, I don't understand where you thought that this was going to go in your favor. We saw Fox. We saw CBS, we saw ESPN, we saw all of them, even CSN. I'll talk about that in a minute. All of them picked against the Eagles. All of them. Because of Cowboys hype. Reminds you when we played the Colts, didn't it? That's all they do. Every week they pick against us. And every week we play and we dominate. Even the games that we lost. We should actually have like one loss. And that's against the Packers. You gotta think, when we lost to the Cardinals, that shouldn't have happened. We should have known that secondary had played better. They wouldn't have got that. We would have won that. We lost to San Fran. We saw what happened with San Fran. We should have won that one too. But you can't take those wins away from them. But we know the real, okay? The fact is the Eagles are better than what they seem. And I'll put it like this. Because I'm tired of these media guys constantly telling us fans, local guys now, local. Told you before, Brian Westbrook was guilty of it. Now Ray Dinger says that the Cowboys were actually going to win this game, and he gets called out by Michael Barkay.
There with Darren Sproles just went in, Brandon Boykin went in. Ray, you could talk about last year and the Snow Bowl against Detroit. You could talk about going down to Dallas, the last game of the season. But this really is a win that you can say at 9-3, beating your division rival this late in the season. Are they a Super Bowl possibility at this point? Are they a conference championship? You laughed when I said they had the best front seven in football a month or so ago.
How did you go to the Super Bowl already? Let's make it to the playoffs. Let's win a game in the playoffs.
Because I'm talking as a fan, and I'm talking about someone, as many in the Delaware Valley are, who are so excited about this win. I mean, I'm not going to say, but some people picked the Cowboys to win this game on this set right here. I was not one. That's 34-31. Yeah.
For these guys to sit up there and get paid to make picks, all you gotta do is look at the stats. All you gotta do is look at the team and the way they played. Why are you buying into hype? The fact is, the Cowboys didn't have a chance to win. I said it would be a tough game because, like I said, I didn't know if they were going to be able to stop that run game with DeMarco Murray. Like I said, they stopped him, 76 yards rushing? They stopped him in? Des Bryant really wasn't a factor unless you put him on one-on-ones with Fletcher, so that didn't really matter. Nothing worked for the Cowboys really in that game. Their defense was constantly on the field, so they were tired, which gave up all those points. That's what it is. Now, whether people want to give Mark Sanchez the credit or not, I've seen all of a sudden, I've seen a lot of people talk about, I always knew Sanchez was this good, and I've never heard them at all talk about Mark Sanchez. Never. That's the kind of bandwagon we have. We talked about that on Twitter, did we not? All right. Understand, nobody counted pretty much the Eagles to win on this, except us Eagles fans. Even in the beginning, people were like, I'm getting scared of the Eagles game. What? I don't understand why people get nervous or scared at these games. You are not playing in these games. You are a fan. If anything, you should be excited. You should be anxious. That's what it should be. Why are you scared? It's a game. It's a football game. I don't understand this. What's there to be scared about? I just don't understand fans these days. I don't. But the fact is, the Cowboys had nothing to it. Let me talk about this cheap shot, all right? At the end of the game, because the Cowboys are so damn salty for what happened, they decide, one of their players decide, they want to take a cheap shot at one of our guys. And, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck said the same thing. It was like, obviously, that's frustration boiling over. I put it like this, Cowboys fans. You always say that us Eagles fans are nasty, we're dirty, and you mean it. This is not like joking around or jawing around. You mean it. You say our team is dirty, and then your player does something like that, and what do? It's nothing. You act like it's nothing. Oh, that player deserved it. I saw a guy say, that player deserved it. How did he deserve it? He's just running down the field. He hasn't done anything to anybody. But because, he has a different jersey on, you're going to justify people playing like idiots. I don't get it. Seriously. The Eagles dominate the Cowboys. We will see you very soon again. And guess what? You come here this time. We're not in your little, nice little warm stadium with your little retractable roof. We beat you in front of your own fans. Now you're coming into the jungle. You're coming into the cage. And guess what? You're going to get destroyed then too, Cowboys. I don't care how, mad you are, how much you lost by. Because we ran the score up on you. It could have been worse. We saw those field goals in the first half. It could have been a lot worse because the Eagles could not get into the red zone. They couldn't score in the red zone. We know that. So this score could have been a blowout in the first half. The Cowboys simply weren't ready. So let the Cowboys play their other teams. And I understand now because people are saying, well, they didn't have, that much time to prepare for the Eagles on Thursday. They had about the same amount of time as we did. We played at 1. They played on Sunday night. They still had to pack up. The Eagles had to pack up and fly to Dallas. They had the same amount of time to prepare. So there's no excuses. You'll have a week this time to prepare. And guess what? You're still going to lose. Because your team's not that good. Tony Romo, like I told you before, that front seven, he was under pressure the entire time. I told you he has a tendency to evade the pocket, but now next time you play us, it will be in December. That means Dallas is done. Stick a fork in them. I don't want to hear it. Like I said, y'all got hyped because y'all beat the 3-win Giants. Y'all beat the Jaguars. That's what you're getting hype off of? Come on, man. Look at football. Stop. Put your fandom aside for once and actually look at football. And I say the same thing, like I said, with these commentators. Put your hypeness aside for a minute and look at football. I said the same thing about the Flyers not too long ago when Mike Milbury went off because they lost, the Flyers beat the Penguins in their house. Put the fandom away for a minute and look at hockey. You just saw the numbers and said, yep, the Flyers would have won this game. That's what you just said. But you didn't. Like I said, I don't know where these people are coming from all of a sudden where this is just some big, oh my God, let's move on to other football, okay? I want to talk to Cleveland fans. Cleveland Brown fans. So, Brian Hoyer was benched. Guess what? I agree. He should have been benched yesterday. When your quarterback, who says that he leads this team, when he has 3 points on the board, and he has a number of interceptions, and he's smiling, he's laughing, joking, and smiling on the sidelines, yeah, get benched. It's the same thing that we dealt with McNabb that one time when we played against the Raiders, and we were getting our tails kicked in, and what happened? He was smiling. There's no smiling when you're losing like that, and you know what, Raiders fans? Don't even get me started. I gave you praise last week. I don't even know how you made it through that game against the Bills. Not against the Bills. It doesn't even matter who y'all played. It doesn't. When you see that score, I know y'all played with the Rams. When you see that score, even in the first half, it was 38-0 in the first half. In the first half. No. As a Raiders fan, if you were a Raiders fan, I don't know how you endured that. I understand you endure losing, but that was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay? Giants fans, you lost. You talk so much online, and I heard, well, it's the Jaguars. This is going to be an easy win. We usually beat up on bad teams, and then you blew it. You blew the game. So if you're going to make fun of the Jaguars and then you lose that game, that should tell you something about yourselves. It really should. Once again, I agree with Giants fans. Fire Jerry Reese. I agree. Okay? Now let's move on to another game. Of course, Carolina, they lost. They stayed losing. Saints, you won. You came back and you won. And here's the thing. I have to talk about this. The Saints. Because the Saints versus Pittsburgh Steelers. For those who don't know, Pittsburgh fans, I don't know what's going on, but this is the second time now that you have lost to an NFC South team. And as we know, the South Division is really bad this year. You lost to the Bucs, and you lost to the Saints. I don't know what's going on out there in Pittsburgh. Your coach was mad after the game, but you know what? Shouldn't be mad at your players, should be mad at yourself. This is something that keeps happening with Mike Tomlin. I am shocked that Pittsburgh fans have not held this guy more accountable. I don't understand this. Patriots-Packers, we had pretty much a good game. It was a really good game. It was a good defensive game at one point. The Patriots did try to come back and win this game, and you know what? It was great to see Tom Brady lose. I say this not because I hate the Patriots at that point when they're playing the Packers, but to see his emotion. For those, I'll play this. Brian Hoyer, you want to see somebody who gives a damn about their team? Look at Tom Brady. Because even though he lost, he was on the sidelines screaming and yelling at himself, not at anyone else like Dallas players were doing during Thanksgiving when you had Dez Bryant yelling at players and you had Jason Witten yelling at coaches. No, Tom Brady was yelling at himself on the sideline because he wanted that win so bad. That is a leader. That's what that is right there. So congratulations to the Packers for beating the Patriots. And all I'm saying is this is going to be a Super Bowl, maybe a Super Bowl matchup. It's possible. Packers are looking really good. They are still, they're 6-0 at home, I believe. And then next week, they have an easy game. I believe it's an easy game, so they'll be 7-0. I mean, the Packers are really strong. And you know what? I know a lot of people are going to sit here and say, well, the Packers are the team. I'm not going to say they're the team just yet due to the fact that after we saw what happened in the beginning of the season, where Aaron Rodgers, I'm still going to hold this over his head, when Aaron Rodgers would not throw to the right side of the field when playing the Seattle Seahawks. That is a problem. And you know what? You may just see Seattle in the playoffs due to the fact that Seattle is starting to gain momentum now. They are. That 49ers game, Seattle game, it was a pretty good game. Defensive game. It's always a defensive game with them. But if you notice, Seattle's been holding a number of teams throughout these previous couple of weeks to a very low number of points. So they seem like they found their groove and they're going to ride it out when it comes to defense. Can they be beaten? Yes, they can be beaten. They can. But they seem to have really caught their groove at this point. Denver versus KC, do we really need to talk about this? I don't think we really need to. We know what Andy Reid brings to the table. Us Eagles fans know this. KC fans, I don't know how you have not tossed this guy out yet. I don't know why you took him to begin with. It boggles me. It does. Redskins. Look, you lost. You should have expected to lose. But your quarterback actually put up some serious, you put up some numbers. The Colts had some holes in their defense, which us Eagles fans saw when we played against the Colts. That's why we weren't worried about the Colts. And it seems like Redskins fans now see that. Colt McCoy put up some good numbers against them. Granted, if you look at everything the way it played out, of course they didn't win. Defense is a problem. Got a lot of injuries. But the Redskins I won't say they found their quarterback, but they found someone of production right now. RG3 is not being productive. And now the talk is, because I didn't cover it last week, there's a lot of talk about him being traded or released or not even holding on to his option. Like I said before, I still think they're going to hold on to his option. They want to make it work. They just gave too much up for RG3 to just say, he's not the guy. They've given up too much. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think the Redskins they'll still hold on to RG3. However, if you look at this guy's Twitter, Redskins fans are so mad. They're mad at him, rightfully so. And rightfully so. Like I said, when you have a guy, and it's not just him throwing the team under the bus and things of that nature. When you see him say the things on Twitter like, you know what I mean, these inspirational, quotes, and you have fans say, look, you have to stop talking and you have to be about it. It's time to put up or shut up. And he doesn't, there's a problem. That's what it is. You can't keep talking the entire time and then go out there and stink it up. You can't. And a lot of people say, well, the offensive line, well, then you can look at Colt McCoy, what he did last week. What's it last week? Yesterday. It's something that always happens, man. It is. So, we shall see what happens with the NFL. I still think in the NFC South, the Saints, I still think they're going to win that division. I know the Falcons, yeah, I know. But still, it's such a weak division right now. It is for that, for that group. But it seems like for our division, we still have, Eagles, Cowboys still, because they're still the only team really, the only other team in our division that has a win, that's over 500. The only team. But now, they are on the bubble. They are on, I would say close to that bottom wild card slot at this point. Because you're not winning in your division, really. And you got to think, like I said, compared to us, and you lost to us now. Like I said, you were already at the wild card spot. Like I said, you weren't in, winning the division then. Like I said, last week, and now this. So, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, it just seems like football, we've seen a number of times, and you guys brought it up to me last week, but I've been talking about this all year. All year, we've seen a number of blowouts. Blowout after blowout. Every week, there's at least, it's not just one blowout. Every week, there's like 2 or 3 blowouts. And that's ridiculous. Are these teams not preparing correctly? And it's not just Thursday either. It's not. We've seen it yesterday. So, lots of shootouts, though, yesterday. Lots of, trying to come back and barely making it, or coming back and winning, or coming back and falling short. And, yeah. So, I don't know. But it's absolutely ridiculous, the things that we've seen. I've also seen Cleveland fans jawing with Buffalo fans. I don't know why. I understand that y'all played each other, yesterday, but when you see the way Brian Hoyer played and then you bring in Manziel, look, like I said, send a message. You bench Hoyer and you bring in Manziel and let him play. At least you bench him for the next game. And you let Manziel play for that game. I'm not saying that this guy's career is over. I'm not going to say that. But you at least bring in Manziel for that next game, and you look at his numbers, and you look at the way he's playing, and he's grooving with the offense, and you see compared to Hoyer. You can't take away what Hoyer's already done. He's won what? 7 games? Something like that? He's won 7 games? So, you gotta remember you still have that. And a lot of people are going to question, well, was it really him, or was it the actual team effort? And that's a question that only Cleveland fans can answer. It really is. I do want to move on to basketball, because I want to talk about more pathetic people in sports. That's right. And I want to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. That's right. You should have known this was going to happen, and I put it like this. When I keep talking about the 76ers and not being able to have any type of chemistry, because a lot of you guys, you message me on Twitter, say, what's going on wrong? What's going on with your team event? And I'm like, they don't play basketball. They're just a bunch of running gunners. They're like street ballers who ball hog. They come in the game and they just run. They don't pass. They don't do anything. And the thing is, when they do try to pass, they have no idea how to pass. This is why the Sixers average over at this point, because it used to be just average. Now it's over 20 turnovers a game. That is unacceptable. But for what I'm getting ready to show you, this is what I mean about being selfish. And I'm going to bring to the table again, Tony Roten. That's right. How do you not pass? You know what? I'm going to start doing this thing where I have a segment called Pass the Ball. I should. Because in this case, you should pass the ball.
Problem for the Sixers early. That's number 33, Mirza Teletovic in the game for the first time. And wow! Going in there for the slam, and Lopez equal to Tony Roten.
I would have loved to see him try to, throw that up for Nerlens Noel to get him going. But
where's the oop? That's right to him. Pass the ball. And I see this time and time again when it comes to this team. For some reason, they still think they're a three-point shooting team, and they're the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA, but yet they keep chucking them up there. I don't understand why. This team doesn't have an identity. It doesn't. It's just a bunch of guys out there running around thinking that they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And you have some people like Tony Roten, and I put it like this. Even though I do not like Tony Roten, you have to understand, he's going to keep running to the basket because he wants to try and make something happen, because he's trying to give some type of support. That's what he's trying to do. The problem is, it's quicksand. Every time he tries to do something harder, guess what? He fails more. That's what he does. So the more he tries, the worse it gets. That is clearly a part where you're supposed to simply pass the ball. Pass the ball. He's right there. Instead, you want to try and be a showboat. You want to try and raise the crowd up. You want to try and get yours. Stop that. That's why you got blocked. And it's ridiculous. And listen, you see these type of answers. Like I said, if you saw this in a high school game, in a college game, you know what happened? You'd be benched. You'd be benched. But for some reason now, it's okay to do this. And Brett Brown, every time, I'm telling you, this guy is just, no. There's no time I've seen this guy say, you know what, this team needs to be held accountable. Every time he gets in front of media, it's, I'm proud of these guys. They played with heart. They were out there on the court and playing the entire time. They're supposed to. They get paid to do it. Besides, you think that basketball players are just going to say, oh, well, I'm just going to stop playing because, I don't want to play competitive-wise. You think every basketball player is going to do that? Because if you feel that way, then there is no point in you being in the NBA. At this point, you know what it is? It's like D-League. It's a bunch of individuals, not a team, a bunch of individuals trying to get their dollars up. Trying to get noticed so that they can move on. That's what it feels like. You got a lot of guys on that team who just don't care. And it seems like, and I put it like this team, if you look at the roster, it's better than last year's team. But it's nowhere near the symmetry or the consistency of the Summer League team. Nowhere near. I don't understand what the Sixers are doing. I don't have any faith in them. And look, I hope they break the record when it comes to a losing streak. I hope they do. They got the Spurs tonight. Guess what? Spurs going to kick their tails in. They're going to. Like I said, they almost beat the Mavericks, was it, a couple days ago? And guess what? Everyone's all hyped. Oh, you almost beat the Mavericks. The Mavericks rested all of their starters. So you were playing the B team, and you still couldn't beat them. That's ridiculous. But no one wants to put those things in context. Everyone says, well, this is what you get. This is what youth is. Like I said, man, you've been talking this trash, this dribble for years. People are tired of hearing about the youth when it comes to the Sixers. You either get it together or get out. And you guys still have the nerve to demand a helipad, huh? Unreal. You still have the nerve to raise your merchandise for unreal. You understand, look, people, it was a report not too long ago. The Sixers are not favored to win any of their games this year. Any. That's right, including the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are not favored to win any of their games. You think there would be enough bulletin board material to say, hey, we're going to go out there and we're going to prove them wrong. We're going to win at least one. Nope. Bonehead plays, selfish plays, cross-court passing, which I don't understand why is still okay in the NBA these days. Flopping for fouls, embellishing for fouls. You don't believe me? Look at Michael Carter-Williams as he embellishes against Barrera. Barrera? Yeah, that's his name, Barrera. Because you know what? This guy is, 5'11"? He's about 150 pounds, if that. Michael Carter-Williams is a lot taller than him, a lot longer than him, a lot stronger than him, as we saw in that game against Dallas when he's trying to back him down into the post. But he's going to embellish to get this foul.
Take shots. Doesn't back down from the shots. Right there, 2 hands on.
And before you think that's the Griffin Force flop of the week, no. I actually had to go back on this one and give you one about the Cleveland Browns against the Cincinnati Bengals. Watch this play go. And this guy, not only does he embellish, not only does he flop, it's like he got hit by a train to get this flag. And yet, for some reason, even though these things are funny, it kills the sport, the integrity of the sport. There's no way that guy should. Come on. Anyways, I want to move on. I want to talk about boxing. For those who didn't see, over the weekend? First off, HBO, you should be ashamed of yourself. All right, Crawford versus Beltran. For those who didn't know, they decided this is going to be a long event. So I'm thinking to myself, it's going to be a very big card. So I'm going to sit down. I'm going to watch this entire event of boxing. And then they played Pacquiao versus Algieri first. The entire thing. To burn up time. Look, I put it like this. You cannot package something that I saw last week on pay-per-view to put it on before a big fight. That's ridiculous, HBO. You're trying to, rake in ratings to those who did not see it. That's what you're trying to do. And you tried, and the thing is, no one knew it was coming. They just introduced it. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at the guide, and I'm like, why is this, event so long? So it must be a really long card, a big card. And then they replayed the entire fight of Pacquiao versus Algieri first. I'm like, you serious? Like, get to the real fight. You know what I mean? Get to the real card, the live card. And they didn't. So I was kind of disappointed with that. So HBO, you should be ashamed of yourself on that, aspect. But you could have ran that separately. You run pay-per-views the week after separately any other time. You did not need to tie that in with the Crawford fight. You didn't. Now, I put it like this. Crawford versus Beltran. I want to talk about this, all right? Because Crawford is, I put it like this. He's a really good boxer. We saw what he did against Gamboa, okay? What I like about Crawford is, kind of reminds me of myself when it comes to being ambidextrous in boxing. Because for those who don't know, when you're a southpaw, a lot of people, the stigma that comes with southpaws is that they lunge with their left. They lunge all the time. They don't really jab much with their right. They lunge with their left. And with Crawford, he can box as a traditional boxer, but as a southpaw, he can still box as a traditional boxer. And that's what I like about him. All night, when he would switch to southpaw in the middle of the ring, he would tag Beltran on his left side. Guy, face, yeah. Couldn't do anything. Now, for those who don't understand, when Crawford won his title, all right, the fight before that, the guy he fought, Beltran fought that guy, and Beltran won that fight. He did. But he got screwed in the judges. He knocked the guy down. He did everything he could to win this fight other than knock the guy out. And he got screwed in the scorecards. So technically, Beltran should have been the champ before Crawford came along. Okay? So this fight going into it, Beltran is technically the number one contender, as he should be. Rightfully so, because technically he got screwed out of the title. So this was an old school fight, as opposed to, as Max Kellerman would say, not WBO, WBC, whatever. This is an old school fight. It was general consensus that this guy was the number one contender. And then Crawford proceeded to pick him apart. And that's what he did all 12 rounds. Now, some people say that Beltran won at least 2 rounds. Possibly. It's possible. 2 rounds out of 12 isn't much. But Crawford kept his distance, used his jab. And that's the thing. When Beltran did get in close and really catch Crawford, Crawford would react with a flurry of punches. So it's not like he would get hurt and then back up, or try to hold or anything. No, he fought back, and you know what? All he did was invigorate the crowd even more. Crawford used the center of the ring to fight his game. And when Beltran even tried to put him against the ropes, Crawford would spin out and dance and put him into the corner himself and work him. So either way, Beltran couldn't keep up with Crawford's footwork. That's what it came down to. If you look at the way both guys are fighting, Beltran's not really, he's not on his tippy toes. No, he's a flat-footed fighter, and he's coming straight at him. Especially because Crawford has he had a 2-foot reach almost? I believe 2.5 feet, something like that. He had a really long reach as opposed to Beltran. So he was just going to stick with the jab and pick this guy apart. Now, since Crawford has beaten Beltran, Crawford has said that he's going to move up to 140 pounds. You know what that means? That means he's in the likes with Adrian Broner. He's in the likes with Danny Garcia. Manny Pacquiao is talking about coming down back to 140 pounds. Also understand, Danny Garcia is thinking about leaving 140 pounds and moving up in weight. You have to understand as well. With Crawford coming into 140 pounds, in the amateurs, Crawford beat Danny Garcia. Crawford beat Mikey Garcia in the amateurs with no problems. So you have to understand that he is a legitimate threat in the 140-pound division. So if Danny Garcia leaves, I would say it's smart for him to leave if he's going to move up another 5 pounds or so. So that's how I feel about Crawford versus Beltran. I also want to talk about CM Punk. That's right, wrestling. This part is actually by fan request. On Twitter, you guys asked me to talk about this, so we'll talk about it. CM Punk, not too long ago, for those who did not see, it's about an hour and 45-minute pod stream on Colt Cabana, Colt Cabana's podcast. He talked about the reason why he left WWE. And if you take everything that CM Punk is saying is true, it's almost kind of hard to argue with Punk what he's saying, because of the fact that if you tie in all the things that have happened and all the people that are, in that industry or on, in wrestling or on TV now, and the things that have happened in the past with WWE, it seems like Punk is kind of justified to leave WWE the way he did. Now, for him to have been injured, broken ribs, bad knees, he had a staph infection that they wouldn't treat. And he kept saying, all I want you to do is help me. And all they kept doing is giving him antibiotics. And then when he was on SmackDown, he actually defecated on himself on SmackDown. You know what I mean? So he was constantly injured. They kept him doped up. And what really struck me, the biggest part of all this, is when he said he was done, that he was leaving, and he had a concussion because he was concussed. It's not the first time he's been concussed. And they never treated it really. And when he was saying that he was done with this, how, the passion is left, Vince McMahon said, well, that's just the concussion talking. And when he said that, and then said Vince, said to himself, oh, you're going to get out there and wrestle later tonight anyway. He knew that CM Punk had a concussion, yet he still wanted him to wrestle. This brings me back to Chris Benoit. And all the concussions he had, and all the tests that we saw, and WWE said, well, this isn't that big of a deal. We didn't see this coming because we were going to put this wellness program in. And CM Punk talks about the wellness program as well, and how it's a joke, and how he went through the wellness program, and yet they still said, well, we need to see you run the ropes on your concussion. He was like, but I just did the concussion test in the wellness program, and you said I passed with flying colors, yet you still want to see me run the ropes like some rookie, he said. And he was like, obviously that those tests didn't do anything. So when you look at it from the wrestler's point of view, and the way he talks about money, and about the network and things of that nature, and no one's questioning these things, it's kind of hard to not say he's a liar. It's kind of hard to say, oh, just take it with a grain of salt. No, it seems like everything he is saying, because as we know, CM Punk, for what we know, is a straight shooter. And for him to give out these type of details, and like I said, this is nothing that he just said, right after he got fired, oh, who cares about WWE and bash the WWE. He didn't do that. It's been a long time since he said anything. So this is something that I feel as though need to be said. And as we know, WWE not too long ago tried to come out and try to say that as well. Road Dogg came out and tried to say, oh, he's bitter and things of that nature. And if thing is, if Road Dogg would have listened to the interview instead of arguing with fans on Twitter, he would have saw that CM Punk had said, yeah, I'm bitter. He has a right to be bitter. That's how you try to get over things. He said, though, that he didn't want to turn this into bashing WWE. He's going to tell you the truth. And it's sad to see that a guy who is on that high of a level, that type of name, get that type of treatment. Could you imagine guys who are lower on the roster who aren't famous and who have these problems and aren't getting the treatment that they need? That's the biggest problem for me. So when I see that, when I listen to that podcast, and it just sounds like, because Punk is saying, I just need you, and he says, just fucking help me. That's it. Help me. Stop trying to give me a bunch of drugs to pump me up. Take care of me. You want me to make money for you. You want me to keep this going, and take one for the team. Help me get better. And it seems like he wasn't getting that. So it got to a point, like I said, it's not just, he wasn't just on the card, main event WrestleMania. If you look at all the events and it's the timeline, all those little things added up, and he was just like, I'm done. I'm done. So it's sad to see if this is true, what we're seeing, if this is all true, this is a problem. Like I said, it stems back from Benoit. You can go back to Chris Candido and his staph infection. Like, these aren't things to play with. And it seems like the WWE still doesn't care. We're not even going to talk about the fact that he talks about, the backstage powers and Cena getting to do things that he came up with, or Lesnar getting ready to do things that he came up with, or he came up with the Shield. And if you look at the timeline, it kind of makes sense, but whatever. But that's not what I'm talking about. The fact is, these are guys and girls who bust their ass 365 days a year in the ring. House shows, TV shows, pay-per-views. They're constantly getting slammed. I've said this before. And for those who don't know, the video I did before about these wrestlers not getting enough credit, that sports video I did on that, guess what? That was taken down. Because WWE came in, swooped in, and blocked it worldwide. That happened about 2 weeks ago. Mind you, I did that video about a year and a half ago. So it goes to show you that the WWE really doesn't care. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. Now, granted, a lot of people will say, well, Punk is arrogant and you shouldn't just go by his word. I understand that people are going to, speculate things or, and be somewhat critical. I get it, But for him to take so long and not say anything, I mean, seriously, if this was about bashing WWE, he'd have came out just like every other wrestler did, when they were disgruntled, ran to TNA, and started talking about WWE. He could have easily did that, but he didn't. He's got a new life. He's writing for Marvel Comics now. He's training for MMA. Like, he's got another life. So when he says that WWE was a pit stop, I think a lot of people got upset about that. And was like, oh, it's a pit stop. What are you trying to say? You're better than that? No, it means that it's only one part of his life. It was a large chunk of his life, but you move on from that. And it seems like people don't get that. It's kind of sad that we see these type of things happen to wrestlers. I mean, we've seen you can always go in and get surgery, but like I said, he wanted to rehab the right way. So, I don't know. I just think that it's sad to see that this is what's come down to for everyone who likes CM Punk as a wrestler or personality, Phil Brooks, whatever you want to call him. You know what I mean? Whether you're a fan of him or not, doesn't matter. I put it like this. In wrestling, we've seen this way too much. We saw Owen Hart when he died. And it's funny because, and I say it's funny, because Vince McMahon says when CM Punk wanted to, walk down Chael Sonnen in UFC, Vince McMahon says, well, someone's going to get killed out there. And then CM Punk said, well, do I have to remind you of Owen Hart? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like Vince doesn't understand. And the fact that Vince thinks that women fighting in the UFC is, absolutely wrong, it goes to show you how behind the times he is. Now, I understand a lot of heat was put on Triple H in that podcast. A lot of heat was put on Ryback. A lot of heat was put on Chris Jericho. Well, I won't say a lot of heat. I'll just say, he just pretty much really shot right at Jericho for what Jericho said. I put it like this. The things with Triple H, as much as we've heard over the years what Triple H does to hold down people and things of that nature, and, how they, like Punk said, you fed me to Triple H for no reason when I was white hot. There was no reason. And it's true, but you also have to give Triple H credit for what he's doing with NXT. And I think that that's another thing that we need to see. I think as much as people don't like Triple H, I think that Triple H still has a grasp on what modern pro wrestling is today. And I think he wants to bring that in. I also think that CM Punk was right, and even Batista said he was right, because they wanted to bring in Batista as a face, and CM Punk was like, that's not going to work. And Batista said himself in an interview, that's not going to work. He knew it wasn't. So they were, they were in agreement. CM Punk also said, how do you ignore Daniel Bryan, or Amdrag, for those who know in his indie days, American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. How do you ignore him when he was white hot? And he said, when I was white hot in 2011, how do you ignore this? And it just seems like the WWE, especially Vince, it just seems like he really doesn't understand what's going on. Now, of course, I can't, this is just my opinion. I can't say he doesn't know, because I'm not back there. I'm not backstage and all that type of stuff. But when you have a wrestler who says these type of things, and you look at other wrestlers from the past who say these type of things, and then you look at the timeline of what's going on in today's wrestling with WWE and the people who are on TV, yeah, it looks like it all adds up. I don't know. That's just me. All right. Anyways, I do want to move on to this. I just want to do that small segment real quick because I was asked. And then I do want to talk about this ending part. I want to talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. What the hell's wrong with you? First off, why is Coburn still on the team? I said this last week. But the Philadelphia Flyers keep losing. And Philly fans, you have to understand, I kind of figured this was going to happen due to the fact that this was a big Philly sports week. And I've said before, when you have big Philly sports weeks or big Philly sports weekends, majority of the time, we lose those. So what happened? The Sixers lost. The Flyers got destroyed by the Rangers twice. The only win we have under our belt, what happened? The Eagles versus Cowboys. That's all we had. And if you talk to Philly fans, that's all they really cared about during that week too. So at least we got that. But the Flyers are still looking piss poor. You got players now in the locker room going, talking to each other, drawing each other, telling each other, look in the mirror, get yourselves together. The media is not helping any. They never do. Right now, it's becoming, it's a dramatic fest for no reason. Get back to playing hockey. And like I said before, I do not trust our coach. I don't. Chief has to go as well. After this season, that's it. This last season, Drew said, even though we were playing bad during a certain part, Drew said, we're going to make the playoffs. Our captain said that because he knew exactly that we could take it up another level. Our team. Did he not? You don't hear him saying that this year, do you? Nope. Not at all. I'm just not happy with what I'm seeing at all. I think some of these calls also that the refs are doing, I'm not going to blame all refs, but there's, when Ronaldo's out there on that ice, they're looking to get him. They are. He needs to be a little bit more disciplined. He does. But this team, you can't have Emery or Mason out there standing on their head and still end up losing. These guys put in, even though Emery, a lot of people are skeptical of Emery, and Mason hasn't been the most consistent goalie this season, because he hasn't. But he has his bright spots, and we've seen him at times really do some great work. And still end up losing. Because bad defense. And you have to understand, when defense falters, it's not just the D-men. No, it goes from your captain to your forwards. It's everyone down. You have to understand, a defensive breakdown starts from the front all the way to the back. So you got to blame everybody. But when you're getting called too many men on the ice, that is a problem, not just with player personnel, but with coaching. Because your times, anybody who's ever played hockey, and you're sitting on that bench, he's going to call your name, you're going to get out there, you're going to, switch off as fast as possible. That is a coaching problem, a communication problem with coaches. It is. Anyways, Flyers, get it together. Because if not, this ship is sinking fast. I'm not saying go into panic mode, but it is really sinking fast. I understand it's still early in the season. It is. But you have to understand, when you dig that big of a hole, it's going to be hard. The more you dig that hole, it's going to be impossible for you to get out, regardless if you start playing good or not. And that schedule does not, I'm telling you now, whoever made this schedule from this week on, for the next, I'll say 2 weeks or so, man, that schedule is hectic. So, I don't know. Anyways, I'm done. I will talk to you, I guess, next week, I would say, because, as you know, I'm going away for about a week. I won't say next week, the week after. So, I will talk to you then. Y'all be safe. I'm out.